Well, hello again, everyone. Meteorologist Jim Dickey back with you with Tropics Talk on this Monday morning. Still tracking Hurricane Erin. Yeah, the last time we talked, this was still Tropical Storm Erin. Plenty went on over the weekend. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Along with Erin, a disturbance behind it, another tropical wave. You see it back here, way out by the coast of Africa in the Cabo Verde Islands. That's the next one we'll be watching as we head through the next couple of days, as we head through this week. But let's begin by focusing in on Erin. So this is the first time you're checking back since yesterday, which I'm sure it's not, or since Friday rather, I'm sure it's not. Quite a bit has gone on with Erin. It, of course, became a hurricane Friday. It then went through rapid intensification all the way to Category 5 intensity north of Puerto Rico on Saturday. Then weakened throughout the day yesterday as it went through what's called an eye wall replacement cycle. Basically, as it was reaching that Cat 5 intensity, that eye was tiny. We're talking about 10 miles wide. And it makes sense. Think about it. You know, think of, say, a figure skater. When they bring their arms in close to their chest and they spin faster and faster. What you're watching in real time there is the conservation of angular momentum. So similar with the hurricane, with this wide rotating body, as it constricts its center to that very tiny pinhole eye, man, then you get some really fast winds around the center. That's exactly what we saw. Went all the way to 160. Then that tiny little eye got surrounded by a larger eye wall trying to form around it in that reorganization process back down to Cat 3, but now that larger eye has taken over, and now it has the chance to re-intensify again. 8 o'clock numbers, winds 130. The pressure actually dropped in the last advisory. The hurricane hunters out there flying in this, and they found that lower pressure. As we zoom in on the high-resolution satellite presentation, you can see a couple of things. First of all, the gravity waves pushing away from the center. Always interesting to see in a major hurricane. And the eye, not exactly that cleared out perfect concentric circle that it was when this was a Cat 5, but still a mainly clear eye at this point in time. We'll see if that can continue to organize itself a little bit further through the day here today. But that being said, I do not anticipate this going back to Cat 5 status. Upper tier Cat 4, sure, but this should struggle to get back to where it was north of Puerto Rico. No changing to the thinking on the path with this. You know, I've been seeing some folks on social media talking about shifts to the west. This is especially true as this was tracking a little more to the due west when it was at Cat 5 strength, but overall, the models simply have not shifted. There's been very strong model agreement in where this is going pretty much for the last week or so. That still is the case this morning. Tight bunching of the models, everything shooting the uprights now between Bermuda and North Carolina, which is what you want to see. We can avoid a landfall with this entirely, I think, as this turns to the north and east and then heads out to sea. The question is, how big will the wind field be, and how close does it get to either Bermuda or North Carolina? Because I do think there's the chance we could see either get into that tropical storm force wind field at the very least. There's your cone forecast from the Hurricane Center up to 145 by 2 o'clock this afternoon. That should be the secondary peak in intensity, and then weakening going forward from there back to a Cat 2 as it's east of North Carolina, and then continue to track to the north and east. This will continue to grow in size as we go forward in time here too. And as it follows, as it grows in size, the top end winds come down, but the wind field expands. So more areas seeing those stronger winds. I actually need to update that measurement, but the hurricane force winds extend in about a 120-mile wide area, so about 60 miles to either side of the center of the storm. The tropical storm force wind field, have to update this too, but it's just about 430 miles wide, so fairly large and growing larger. And that is something to watch as we go forward in time. We'll switch the colors here. So in yellow, you have tropical storm force strength winds. That'd be 40 plus miles per hour. In orange, hurricane. In red would be those major hurricane winds, or at the very least winds over 100 miles per hour. As we advance this forward, you can see the tropical storm force wind field expanding. The hurricane force wind field still fairly small. And this stays well to the east of Florida and the Bahamas. So tropical storm force winds in Florida, no, not on the table. Go forward in time, here you go, splitting the uprights. So both Bermuda and the Outer Banks of North Carolina are on the fringes of that tropical storm force wind field. Not tough to imagine. Slight shift to the west or a slightly larger wind field. Eastern North Carolina, perhaps parts of the Delmarva, get into that tropical storm force wind core. Little shift to the east, could certainly be seeing tropical storm force winds in Bermuda. I do think the good news is I don't see either getting anywhere close to that hurricane force wind field. That will stay well offshore with this one. Regardless, this is going to kick up some huge waves out there in the Atlantic. You see the wave heights building to 35, 40 feet offshore of Florida, and it's just like, dropping a big boulder into a lake and then the waves ripple off from there. We are talking 12, 15-foot waves up and down the East Coast from about West Palm all the way north to New Jersey to Cape Cod as we get into the late part of the week. This is going to cause dangerous surf, beach erosion, rip currents as we get into the mid to late part of the week. So that'll be the sort of outer impacts, the indirect impacts from Erin as it swirls up the East Coast. And, you go back through history, you look at a lot of storms that have done this recurve path, and you often go back through the numbers and you find a couple of fatalities in the U.S. from them. And usually when you dig into the why behind that, they usually have to deal with people getting caught in rip currents, people getting caught in the rough surf. So don't be one of those people. Don't be venturing out into the ocean over the next couple of days up and down the East Coast, as it is going to be very, very rough out there as major Hurricane Erin swirls on by. Now, behind Erin, we're tracking another wave. There's no organization detectable within it right now. You see the storm sort of fading away to the east, the broader sort of cloud shield all drifting westward, perhaps a little bit of a turning in the winds. See the upper level winds or the upper level clouds going from north to south here, going more from south to north here. So yes, this is what we call that tropical wave, that broad open low pressure area that has sparked quite a bit of thunderstorm activity with it. Note, fairly far to the south. So this would have to gain quite a bit of latitude to miss the Leeward Islands as it works its way westward. And chances are it will not. In fact, I want to go ahead and go back a graphic here. We'll finish on that one. This is from the Hurricane Center, the latest update. 50-50 shot for development with this. If it takes the name, it would be Fernan, and it should be in the general vicinity of the Leeward Islands by the time we get to Friday and the weekend. So this is already further south than Erin. It will have a tough time getting far enough north to miss out on the Caribbean entirely. Long way to go with this. So I know everyone wants to know, where is this thing going to go? And I know you've probably seen posts on social media showing this potentially hitting the United States. Not out of the question the U.S. could deal with impacts from this. Also not out of the question it, like Erin, turns harmlessly out to sea. You're asking the models to do a lot right now. You're asking the models to predict exactly when it starts to spin up, how fast it's moving, and how its development and intensity would influence that forward motion. And then you also have to figure out where it's going to be in time compared to the various other systems that would be steering it, in particular the area of high pressure off to the north and east in the Atlantic. So you have a wide variety of solutions with this. This is the European ensemble. This is the probability of tropical storm force winds, basically. And of note, there's not nearly the same signal for development with this one in the ensembles that there was for Erin a week before Erin formed. So that would tend to lead to, or tend to suggest, a weaker system. But in this model, and in most models you look at, there's sort of three ideas here. One, something comes together and then spins to the north, basically follows Erin's path. A second, something stays weak, drags across the islands, stays weak as a result, and then heads into the Gulf. And then there's a third scenario where something stays just north of the islands and then potentially works its way towards Florida and the northern Gulf. All three on the table. I'd say the most likely scenario at this point in time is scenario number one, where it turns to the north. But bottom line, at this point, more questions than answers, and it's just something to keep an eye on. Something to worry about? No, something just to watch as we head through the next couple of days, as we do anything that's in the Caribbean as we get towards the heart of the hurricane season. So my advice to you, keep an eye on the forecast. We'll, of course, alert you to any changes in what's going on with this as we get closer in time. I suspect this gets named an invest as early as later on today, if not tomorrow. Once it does, then we get the tropical models to come in. Everything comes together between now and Wednesday. We're going to have a much better idea on exactly where this is going and exactly what we may or may not be dealing with this here locally in Southwest Florida. So again, stay tuned to the forecast, which you should be doing anyway now that we're heading towards the heart of hurricane season. We'll have the latest for you on air and online here at Gulf Coast News throughout the next couple of days. Until next time, meteorologist Jim Dickey, have a great day.